Welcome back to the review crew. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Gabe. On today's episode, we're going to review The Northman. Cam and Dylan are going on the spot to review The Lighthouse.
Here's the trailer for The Northman.
Now, behold.
He's here. He's here.
Mother! Father is here!
The king, my lady. The king.
Your fate is set and you cannot escape it. How I've missed you, my son. One day this kingdom will be yours.
Thank you, Father. My king.
Father!
For whom you shed your last teardrop. I can feel now.
I will avenge you, Father! I will save you, Mother! I will kill you, Fiona!
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, Fiona.
Why would he stow away to such a hellish place?
To find what was stolen from me.
And what is that?
The kingdom. You must choose between kindness for your kin or hate for your enemies.
Your strength breaks men's bones. I have the cunning to break their minds.
And night by night, we will carry out my pledge of vengeance. I will avenge you, father.
I will avenge you, Father.
I will save you, mother.
I will save you, Mother.
I will kill you, Fiona.
Welcome back. Now, before we begin, we'd like to open with a disclaimer. Due to some of the triggering and controversial nature of the plot of this movie, we will not be recapping any of the story. What I will say is that it's ultimately a contrived version of Hamlet, and Lion King does it better. Now, Tucker. This movie, The Northman, Robert Eggers' fingerprints are all over it in so many ways. This is a wild and crazy and, in short, unique film.
Yeah, haven't seen a lot of movies in 2022. I would call this one probably the most crazy, even more so than Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes, my brain was like, I was joyously confused watching Everywhere All at Once. After this, I hurt in my heart, in my head. This is a bummer movie. A bummer movie.
I was gonna say, we both walked out and we agreed. This is a depressing slog.
Yeah.
There are very few redeemable qualities about almost every character in this movie. And it's difficult. Yeah. It's a very difficult movie to get through.
It is a hard sit. It is like Requiem for a Dream. Some movies are hard sits. This is a hard sit.
Yeah, I agree. Not a rewatch.
No, it isn't a rewatch. Now it's kind of funny because on social media, this movie's been getting some comparisons to a film from a couple of years ago, The Revenant. What are your thoughts on that comparison?
So, for me, I'm a little biased because I'm inclined to enjoy a Western a lot more.
We both definitely are.
Not that I don't love a good Viking Odyssey. I mean, Vikings, the television series, one of my favorites personally.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Great game.
Great game.
But something about the Old West. I'm drawn to it a little more.
Oh, yeah.
I also think Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in that one, not to bash the performances of the Northman, which were all very solid, definitely the highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah.
But DiCaprio in The Revenant, that's like one of the great performances ever.
Oh yeah, he slept inside a dead horse. Like I don't think anyone did that for the Northman. But then again, I also wouldn't be surprised if someone told me they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think the revenge story of The Revenant is a little easier to get behind. For me personally, I just am drawn more to that father-son revenge story than the father-son revenge story
in the
of
Northman.
the Northman.
Yes.
I think it's different because you're rooting. The Revenant is different because you're rooting for the father.
Yep.
This one's different because you're rooting for a son who.
But are you really rooting for the son in this? Is something that we're gonna have to discuss because, I mean, we'll talk about it when we break down performances, but character motivations. There's a lot of them are hatred, and it's really hard to support someone whose motivation is hatred. Like, I like to think of myself as a decently positive guy. This movie crushed the hope in me. Like, I did not feel, there was no one who I was like, you're a good person, way to go, buddy. There's no one in this. I was just like, you're bad, and it's just, you're both equally levels of bad.
I would say that probably the character that ended up being the most, normal, even though he does
Nothing in this is normal.
Nothing in this is normal, and he does some horrific things. But our villain, Fjolnir, in this movie, honestly, probably the most positive character arc, even though his character arc is horribly not positive.
Yeah, so Hamlet, this story is based on Hamlet, which The Lion King was also based on. And Lion King, I like Simba. Go Simba. He's doing good things. Good lion. Amleth, who's Alexander Skarsgård's character, is the Simba for this story. And bad lion. Not a big fan. He's just mean to people, and I don't like mean people. I don't have time for it anymore. It's 2022. I've had it up to here with the meanness. I need a break from it. This movie did not give me any respite.
I agree. I would say he is the description that I would use. He is vengeance personified.
Yep.
And we're not talking like
The Batman
or action star vengeance. We're talking true hatred of somebody.
This is the Hammurabi Code vengeance.
Yes.
Like this is
eye for an eye.
Yep. There's eye for an eye, nose for a nose. So yeah, kind of speaking about that, this movie was marketed as Robert Eggers as a big studio film, like when Chloe Zhao did Eternals. And IGN and every other review site was like, oh, Robert Eggers has taken a more tone, this is tamed down. It's not as violent as some of his other films. You kind of want to touch on the lie that was?
It was a lie.
Yeah.
It was We've
been bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
Yes, we have. This movie is one of the more violent movies I've seen in a really long time. And we're not talking like the type of violence that you see in a shoot 'em up type of movie.
This isn't Kill Bill level of violence. Because that's stylistic. This is like someone was scientific with this violence.
Yes.
And it's kind of sad because there are parts of this movie that feels like a big studio film. There's one sequence, and I understand now why it was the part that was released to the press, when these berserker Vikings are climbing over the walls of this barricade with axes, and then someone catches a spear and uses the momentum of it. It's awesome. But then just right after, you get to another deeply traumatic and villainous action by our heroes. And so I just completely disagree with how this movie's been marketed. And I also just disagree. I reject the notion that tame is a word you could use to describe this movie. There's many words to describe this movie, and tame is not one of them, because this movie is a bloodfest. But it's got some amazing performances, and that's what we're going to get to right after our break.
OTN is on all your favorite apps: Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Search Orange Television Network or OTN. OTN has its best shows, short films, and Citrus TV on demand. Family and friends can watch OTN too. Watch the live stream of OTN to catch live Citrus TV news, live from Studio B, and mornings on the Hill. On or off campus, watch OTN anywhere.
And we're back. So, Tucker, the Vikings in this. I feel watching them how I feel watching my mortal enemies, the Minnesota Vikings, because they have taken what I love and broken it down, and my hope is gone. So, sorry, I just had to get a Minnesota Vikings dig.
You had to make me laugh a little bit.
Exactly. This movie did not make anyone laugh.
No.
What it did do is give us some very committed and intense performances. Let's start with Alexander Skarsgård as Amleth. He's kind of our T'Challa type character in the sense that he's just trying to get vengeance for his dad. What do you think of Skarsgård's performance in this?
Like I said earlier, vengeance personified,
Yep.
and I'll go a little bit more into depth there. A lot of the dialogue in this movie is like a play. It's
Yep.
like a Shakespeare play.
100%.
So another issue with marketing. This was not clear in the marketing.
It was not.
So it's not for, his performance is not for people that are not expecting dialogue like in a play.
I would agree.
That being said, he does it really well. And he, I think the Scandinavian heritage definitely helps.
Oh, yeah.
It makes him very believable as this Viking prince.
Yeah.
And he looks like a Viking.
He does.
He is ripped in this movie. Spends a lot of the movie shirtless, and he's just like intimidating throughout this entire movie. I was intimidated.
I will say, I kind of disagree with you about the verbal communication.
Okay.
Because I think for him, a lot of the communication he does is either through yelling, and when he's yelling, it's pretty clear to understand what he's talking about, or there's a lot of grunting from him in this. Very like animalistic. But I think more than the verbal, his nonverbal is killer. There's one part after the amazing breach of the fortress type thing where he just picks up a sword and he like changes his stance almost so he's lower and he like channels like a bear and you can immediately tell what he's going for, and it's excellent. This movie is a heavy movie, and if there's one person who carried it well, it was him. He put the weight of it on his shoulders and did a good job. Now, we've got our person we're fighting for, Ethan Hawke, as the Viking King, not in it for very long. Not my least favorite Ethan Hawke performance, but his crux of this performance is kind of along with Willem Dafoe. To put it nicely, they are both enhanced during this scene and dancing naked around a fire. How'd you feel watching that scene?
This scene was, it was trippy for sure.
Trippy, yes.
And it was important because it sort of set the tone for the rest of the movie.
And it's historically accurate. Like, we have to give him credit for that.
Yes. I think Ethan Hawke played a good dad.
Yep.
And especially a Viking dad, which is, it's a very different concept of fatherhood.
Yeah.
And the idea, like, he's very, very understated, I would say, at the beginning. And then when they get to that fire and they're dancing around naked, he just...
What a weird scene, bro.
They both just let it loose. Like, they were...
Oh, they very much let it loose, yes.
Yes.
That works on multiple levels.
Yes,
Good job,
it
buddy.
does. Willem Dafoe, also very entertaining.
Yeah, he is. He is fun in this movie.
He is fun. He's fun in every movie,
Yeah.
I would say, even if it's a really wild movie.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah, he's still fun. I liked the voice, like the Willem Dafoe as a Viking.
Yeah.
Wild combination, but I think it worked really well. I wish he were in it more. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted him to be the voice in the back of Amleth's head throughout the movie.
We did get him one more time towards
The middle,
where he's just a decapitated head. That part was pretty crazy, but it was cool. It was cool because I don't know if it was his performance or they added sound effects, but there was almost like a zombie tone to his voice. Like it sounded like he was like missing like half his tongue or something. And that was cool. I guess our last performances, we've got our villains, Nicole Kidman and Clea's Bang.
I liked Claes Bang's performance. I thought he was a captivating enough villain, and I liked, as we talked about earlier, I liked how you didn't really know if you wanted him to die, but at the same time,
he was also being the most rational out of everyone.
Yes, and you felt guilty about it, and you have this guy who he's done some horrible things. But at the same time, he's now a family man. He's settled down. He's got his little village in Iceland.
He's got his little farm, yeah.
And he had, in a movie filled with people with very few redeemable qualities, he had a couple.
Yeah. Nicole Kidman's character has no redeemable qualities.
No.
I'm going to be honest, I hated both her performance and I hated the character.
She felt very out of place in this movie.
She didn't belong.
No.
I don't know if she was trying to do the same as the other actors. She was just the wrong choice.
She was out of place. I think that's the best way of describing it. Great actress. This was not the right movie for her.
As one of the only women in this, she was kind of blown out of the water by our romantic lead /
sidekick,
Anna Taylor-Joy, who plays a witch. I think she's a witch.
She's a Rus sorceress.
Yeah.
Named Olga, I believe. I thought her performance was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
she's the hope for this story.
Yes. However, she also does not have very many redeemable qualities.
No, she doesn't. She poisons a lot of people.
Yes.
Uses some shrooms. There's some stuff where you're kind of questioning, like, where's the humanity in this movie? There's none. There's no humans. And so, performances, some were good, some were Nicole Kidman. But technical aspects for this movie, I think, is the masterpiece part of it. And so we don't really discuss them, but Robert Eggers, like if we can say one thing about him, behind the camera, he knows what he's doing. So we talked about the good behind the camera. We talked about the craziness in front of it. 1 to 10, how are you rating this movie, Tucker?
So I've thought about this a lot, and I've really ebbed and flowed over the last week or so. I'm gonna go 7.5, and I'm gonna say that because this movie was carried by some fantastic performances. It's beautiful. I mean, some of the greatest cinematography so far this year, and I would say over like the last couple of years.
100%.
It's such a bummer, and I think the marketing really.
Someone fumbled the bag.
Somebody fumbled the bag, and it made the movie not as good as I wanted it to be. I left a little bit more disappointed than I wanted to be.
I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna say a 7.75.
Okay.
As a cinema nerd, this movie is cinema. As a human being, this was an experience that I don't want to do again. I feel like I felt after seeing Joker, which is like just drained. This movie drained me. And so there are some good things about it, but I think this is going to be a one-time only viewing for me.
I agree.
But yeah, we'll see you guys right after this. That's all for this week. If you want to follow more Review Crew content, go to the Review Crew Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as Orange TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and YouTube.
Find the Review Q's podcast on Spotify or on our website at orangetvnetwork.syr.edu, where you can find also our blog and more OTN information.
Also, be sure to check out Friday Night Movie Night on OTN. This week's movies are The General, He Walked by Night, and Plan 9, Outer Space.
See you next week.